Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Your Saltwater Guide, Captain Dave Hansen. We got a really good one. We got Tiffany in the house with us as usual on Thursdays, but we brought in a super special guest, Alex, and he's going to be kind of going through his building bench and what he does, and he teaches a lot of classes. He teaches a lot of people how to do this. Hey, Alex, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
I'm super excited because Tiffany said you are the man, so I'm ready.
I do what I can do when I can do it,
Yeah. Well, why don't you kind of let our viewers know how you got into this whole rod building thing, the fishing thing? Give me like 10 minutes and then we'll get into what you and Tiffany do, and Tiffany will interview you from that point forward. Just let my viewers know who you are.
Yeah, so my name is Alex. I'm a born and raised Southern California. I recently moved back to Southern California from Hawaii. Was out there, working, wrapping rods, having some fun. I got into, I've been a lifelong fisherman, fishing since I was a kid. I got all the pictures of me on the boats and all that kind of fun stuff. But I was a college baseball player, played a little bit of independent professional baseball. And then once that all kind of ended, I had a lot of free time naturally. So I got back into fishing. And once I started getting into fishing was around, it was around that 2015 when we really had the good El Nino and, everyone was catching everything. And if you didn't get hooked in that time, then fishing isn't for you, So for me, it was like getting on the boats, getting, my tail in the water. And then I started to notice after, a year or so that a lot of these people that are good fishermen that are, really slaying it, they are making baits. They're, driving the boat, they're building rods, they're making gaps. A lot of these guys are contributing in another form of fashion other than just the fishing. And I thought that was really cool. And I thought it would be a good way for me to get into a little bit more of the science of what I'm doing. And, I'm a pretty analytical guy, so I like to understand the what's and the whys. And it just was really kind of a natural progression. In 2020, I started getting into actually custom rods. I had a rod built for me, maybe 2018, 2019. And then in 2020, I ran into, his name is escaping right now, and this really bums me out. Steve Wan. Shout out to Fugu Rods. Steve Wan, I was dropping him off a blank to wrap, and he kind of convinced me to learn how to do it myself. Not that he didn't want to do it, but we were chatting, and he thought it would be a good fit for me. So
he gave me. Turn off your phone. There we go. All right.
Yeah, no worries.
Back. There we go. Much more better.
Yeah, so, Steve kind of walked me through some of the basic stuff while he was helping me wrap my rod, or while he was wrapping my rod. And then so he ended up moving to Tennessee. And so I kind of was confronted with this whole all right, well, I'm either going to do it myself or I'm going to find someone else to help me. So I just dove in head first. I started wrapping rods on my own. I try to do a little bit of YouTube video. That's not typically how I learn well. So it got pretty quickly into just wrapping one color flat, and then I would have to cut, tie, add another color if I wanted to add something else. So naturally you get into that, okay, I want to do more. How do I get better? And I tried to do YouTube. It wasn't really working out for me. Cause there's a lot of things in YouTube videos that people don't talk about, thread tension, the tools you're using, the setups, if you're left hand dominant, if you're right hand dominant, there's a lot of subtleties that, an individual teacher can help you with. So I started reaching out to people on Instagram, and a lot of people were like, oh yeah, sure. Come on. I'll help you. But then when it came to okay, hey, can I come over on Tuesday? A lot of people were all of a sudden maybe I don't want this stranger in my house, which, is understandable.
Right.
Yeah. But luckily for me, another guy, John Vadney, Dreadnought Rods, he told me about Doc Ski. And I had heard about Doc Ski, I've seen his work. I've heard people talking about him. But to me, it's just, Babe Ruth, Pedro Martinez, these are the guys who, how am I going to get in touch with this guy? This doesn't really help me. But he gave me Doc's email, and I sent him an email. You know, a couple days went by. I figured out, let me refresh him, you know, like maybe he didn't see it, maybe he forgot, whatever. And then literally as soon as I sent that second email, maybe 20 minutes later, he responded, oh, hey, sorry, I thought I responded. Like, come over whenever you want. And I was like, are you sure? Because I'll be there tomorrow. Like if you're serious, I'll be there. And before you know it, I was at Doc's house like 2-3 times a week. Like it was pretty nuts. Yeah, I mean, like there was a point I was working remote, you know, so I was like I had my laptop and then I was also working. So I was like, maybe I should make sure I'm focusing on the work and not spending so much time with Doc. But you know, it was really awesome. You know, I spent, you know, the more than 6 months or so just basically dorming at his house and wrapping rods and getting into a lot of the science and the subtleties of the things that, you know, most people don't talk about because it's not that glamorous, or it's something that, you know, nobody wants to talk about2 rod 4 times before you spit it out and show everybody. You know, everybody wants to just, hey, I did this first try. This has got 8 to 10, I don't know, maybe 12-inch sections, and this white section I wrapped 8 times before I thought it was satisfactory to what I wanted, you know. And that's not gonna look, you know, if you're trying to show people on YouTube, nobody wants to watch you try and fail for 7 hours straight, you know.
Right.
They want to see you one shot, you know,
right, they
headshot kill it. So
they expect that you would know it like that, but they don't realize that how much time it takes to get the perfection done.
yeah, and that's just and that's part of the other aspect of what I love about rod building is, you know, if I'm at work and someone does a good job, but they, you know, obviously didn't try that hard, like it's kind of rude for me to go, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like if I don't think this is satisfactory, I can fix it myself. I have complete autonomy over how specific and how anal retentive I want to be about this. And so it's a really good avenue for someone like myself with a lot going on to, like, you know, okay, hey, like this isn't perfect. Like, do I want to settle or do I want to redo it and make it the way I expect of myself, you know?
Well, you're like me. You got it. It's a perfectionist thing. Something that Doc has probably screamed at you too, saying it's not about perfection. It's about
progress. Yeah, and you know, it's funny. So like when I let me grab this. So like a lot of times when every time when I build a rod, I don't do this for re-wraps, but I'll do this for like fresh built rods. Like I give them like a little certificate of authenticity, and so I got on the bottom, it's not about progress, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. So
I can't count how many times he's tried to drill that into my head, but we still backpedal and want it perfected.
I mean, that's the beauty of it, you know, like you get to decide what you're okay with. And I think that's it shows a lot about people's character. And, you know, not to get all philosophical and like this isn't criticism of other people, but like if you see work that is a little sloppy, or if you see, like, for me, it really comes down to like looking at factory rods. You know, I don't really look at other builders and be like, oh, this sucks. Like, I don't know the circumstances, like whatever, dude. Like maybe they just started, maybe this is their 10th rod. But at a factory rod, these dudes are doing it all day. And so if you see, you know, misaligned guides, if you see, you know, tugs that are in the middle of the you know, the four, like the section you're going to look at rather than on the dirty side of the rod. Like there's all these little things, like different widths, different, you know, if you have a trim end and one is fat and one is skinny, like a lot of those subtleties I look at and I think, okay, well, you know, they don't care about what they're putting out, you know? And so for me, it's just one of those, you know, it's just like anything else that you're doing custom. Like you want it your way, you want it, like you have a vision in your mind. And for me as a rod builder, like I'm trying to put that onto the rod.
Right.
Real quick, though, Matt, the reason I'm dressed up is because I'm still at this 5-star resort. I haven't left yet. I have 3 shirts, and they're all filthy dirty. This is my shirt for going out to dinner tonight at one of the fine restaurants. So I put this on because the shirts are all dirty. No, I don't have any shoes on. No, I'm not wearing shoes. I refuse. I'm not going there if you got to wear shoes. I went to that ICAST show and wore them one day in a row, and my feet thought they were in jail. They didn't know what they had done wrong. They were pissed. And they were like, we didn't do it, Dad. And I'm like, I know, boys, I won't tie you back up again, I promise. So I'm not putting shoes on no matter what. I don't care if you all wear shoes. Good. I hope you like those yellow toenails. Next, today is Fishing Booker Thursday. We can't do this without our great sponsors. And Fishing Booker is back. They're back to sponsor the shows on Thursday, and I thank them kindly from the bottom of my heart. We'll show you a cool little video I made up in Alaska about Fishing Booker in a little bit later in the show. But I wanted to just, and I'm trying not to overstep because I really don't know what the hell I'm talking about building rods. I know how to kill the stuff. I can take you to where it lives, and we can kill it together with your beautiful customer.
Hey, careful. Promises.
Oh, believe me, there's a bunch of people here that would be standing in line for an opportunity to go kill stuff with me.
Let's do it.
Listen, this is super special, you guys. If you understand what he's talking about, Doc Ski allowed Alex to come into his home. That is the key to these old timers. They want to teach. They want to pass this on. We talk about it all the time on this show. I bring in so many legends of the industry, and the thing we all have in common is we want to pass on our passion. And Doc, what a spectacular human being to allow you to come into his house, Alex. People don't understand. Of rod tying human beings on the planet, and artist of putting together some of the most spectacular rod building. And I just spent some time with him at ICAST, and him and I just sat and stared at his cane for like 20 minutes going over. And I kept telling him, because Tiffany made me do this, but I'm like, these are some spectacular stickers you have here.
Yeah, I mean, so like that's like something that I am very fortunate, and I know there's other people that he mentored and worked with, but like I was there watching him build that thing, so it was I not the entirety of it, but like I was able to watch that come to fruition in a lot of ways, and to see like that's something that's for him, you know, like no one is like, a lot of people see it because of who he is, right? But like the level of precision and craftsmanship that he put into something that is just really for him to enjoy, you know, like that's the attitude that I think a lot of rod builders have. You know, they want to show that, like, look at the attention to detail, like, and when you create something like that, it naturally is going to be, you know, I got it on the cover of the Rod Maker magazine over here in the stack. Like, I mean, when you do good things, it's, you know, it's like the old adage, when you do good things, people will recognize it. And I think that's like a perfect example of it.
Oh, for sure. So you have your rod building table there. I'm going to let you and Tiffany take it from here and kind of stay out of the way. I'm going to drop down to the lower part of the screen. Go ahead, you guys.
Well, guys, this is a dear friend of mine. He has so much different techniques to show you guys on different rod building. And I wanted him to come here today because he's also on my team where when we do seminars at different trade shows on rod building, he, like I said before, he's had my back on them. He flew from Hawaii to California to help me out, even though, you know, he was planning on moving, but I made him come out before, a little bit earlier. And he's such a good rod wrapper that I know a lot of, right now, I'm, as you guys know, because of my spinal surgery, but what I have, all the stuff that people want to have their rod built right now, I'm passing it over to him. He's really good. So if you guys need work right now done, or within the next year, because I'm not going to be able to pick up anything else till probably 9 months from now, because I haven't been cleared to wrap yet. So he's really good. Alex, how can they get a hold of you if they have a job for you? Because I can't do it right now.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. The easiest way to get a hold of me is I have my website, saltwatercustoms.com, and then my Instagram handle. If my Instagram handle is kind of where where you can like talk to me the easiest. So at Saltwater Salmons, I think it was on the screen. I'll put it back up, or maybe Dave can put it back up. But message me on Instagram, message me on my website. There's a little link where you can, you know, pick out a couple parts, colors. You know, you can tell me a little bit about what you want built, and then you can contact me directly. Those two are the best ways to reach out to me. I promise you, if you find me on Facebook, I will not see it. I check Facebook. I check Facebook like twice a month, or like twice a year, just to, like, for like, I have family in Japan that I talk to. And then every time I get on Facebook, there's a bunch of people asking me questions or trying to add me. I want to just stress, like, Instagram is the way to go.
I can concur with that one. When I tried, I got to text Alex, texted you, and I didn't realize I was on Facebook. 4 days later, it's like, Alex, are you mad at me?
that was lucky, because I was actually I was looking for Gudbrod Electra thread, and so I do that once a year too. You know, they stopped making threads before I was born, so every year or so I stick my head out and ask if anybody's selling any.
And that's why I dominate on Facebook, gang, because these children today don't understand it. That all the little zit-faced kids are on Instagram. You can get them all day long there, but if you want where the real people are, they're on Facebook. That's why I get 30 million views a month on Facebook. All you children, you stay off of Facebook. Let that go. That's where all the money is. That's where all the people are. So you guys just stay away. You guys keep getting your 2 or 3 cents a month, and I'll stay over there and get my millions of dollars. Thank you.
Handle it. I handle it. I don't have enough video ideas.
The largest social media platform in the world is Facebook. So yeah, you don't want to be on there. That's for damn sure. Hell no. People would actually find you. That would be terrible.
Well, I mean, so
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Instagram is technically Facebook, but, you know, like, from a platform perspective, you know, anyway, it's all just, you know, like, for me, it's just easiest to so it's saltwater, but there's no E in saltwater. So it's a little stylized, just because my last name is Salmon. So I thought that was kind of clever.
Yeah.
You know,
you remember I asked you, you misspelled it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do. I did that on purpose, actually. But
so last week, I was talking to everybody on here about tiger wrap, and I really want you to show them your style and technique of the tiger wraps. So I want you to teach them right now, because you've got a gnarly one.
Yeah, no, I got a couple. Let me see if I can get this in frame. So this is something I worked on with Doc. Let me see if okay. This is all right. One of the things that I like to do fundamentally when I'm working on tiger wraps is I like to try to, you know, everyone, like, it's ironically called a tiger wrap, right? But personally, I kind of feel like the stripe look is something that, like, isn't the most appealing.
That's the basic one.
Yeah, like, I mean, it looks good. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask here. Like, it looks good, but I think there's something really, something a lot more unique. And what I like to explain it as is, like, this is a little bit more of a traditional where you can see the bands. I did this one on purpose because for this rod, this is supposed to be like a surf spot. So you want waves, you know, like as if you were at the place. But on the bottom section, it's a lot more like the look I try to explain is like a lava lamp, to where it's a little bit more unpredictable, what you're going to get. And it's really, you can't really see it in this. But if we were outside, you would see, like, if I rotate the rod, and this is just because I'm in a tight space, but like there's a dot right here that if I rotate this rod will appear and disappear. And so what Doc likes to call it movement in the rod. And so when you have the tiger, like the stripes, you're not going to get as much movement. And so, you know, it's going to look pretty stagnant the entirety of the wrap. But if you get something, this is actually a better example. So something like this, where you can see the black, the silver, and the white, as I move the rod, like the black and the white and the silver shifts. And so it becomes a little bit more of a moving piece rather than just like a stationary, oh, here, look at this multicolored stripe effect. And there's a lot of good, I say this, and there's a lot of people who do a really good job. There's a lot of people who, this is time consuming. It's hard. Like if you have 50 rods to wrap, like it really doesn't make a lot of sense for you to chisel out that specific, feature set that you're looking for. And you'll see a lot of guys, wrap it. It's fundamentally wrapped correctly because there is a technique, and I'll explain that in a sec. But like my style is, I'm trying to go for like the lava lamp, a little bit more of an elongated, straighter line, so to speak. I guess the word I'm looking for is like horizontal, parallel with the rod, so that way when you're fishing, as you move your head, as you're fighting the fish, that will move. And as someone's watching you fish, they get a different effect as what you're seeing. And so what it all boils down to, and what I think is cool, is it becomes a fingerprint for your rod. Mm-hmm. And no matter what happens, like even if I were to wrap, like the other day I wrapped, well, not the other day, but the last couple of rods I wrapped for my buddy Jack were black and purple tiger wraps. And I did the same, I wrapped them essentially the same, but they have fundamentally different looks as the end result. And so, like I said, it becomes like a fingerprint to where you can do the same tiger wrap every time with the same threads, but it's always going to look differently. And I think that's something that's pretty cool when you're talking about a custom rod. Like if you have a set of rods, like it is cool to be able to be identified, like, oh, this is my 50. Like I don't have to look at the label. I know. Just based off some of the features, or and it all, the other aspect of it is it all boils down to, if you look good, you feel good, you play good, they pay good, and most people aren't getting paid out here for the fishing, but like, that's how we treated it when we were playing baseball, mm-hmm. And so you take a little bit of that same approach. When you have a rod that makes you excited to go fishing, then you're going to be out there more excited. You're going to fish the rail a little harder. If it's the bottom of the ninth and there's 5 fish on the boat and everybody's kind of a little bit like, maybe I should just grab a beer and, a burger and a beer and relax. Like if you have a rod that gets you fired up, then you're going to stay on that rail a little harder. You're going to fish a little harder, and then you're probably going to have better results because of that. And so I think that's just some of the philosophical stuff that when I wrap a tiger wrap is going through my mind. The X's and O's of it is pretty fundamentally simple. Let me put this back on the rail.
Here, I'm going to show your Instagram page. People are asking.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking for your Instagram page.
Oh,
hey, there's
yeah.
no E. There's no E.
Yeah,
But that's unique. That's very unique how you came up with your company name.
I will admit there's probably a likelihood that someone took saltwater already, and that's got, but I like this personally,
Yeah, Alex is a really good rod wrapper. He's also, I don't know if you guys are aware, but he's also on the Rain Shadow Pro Staff team, and that's a hard one to get on.
Yeah,
he's very modest.
I'm grateful. There's guys like my friend Non, dude, Flashbite Custom Rods. Like he has, Jim Trelake is like Scott Throop. Like these guys are the guys who like invented stuff. And so like, mm-hmm. Quite frankly, if I'm going to be honest with myself, like being good at what other people did is awesome. And I think that's cool. But like, I think it's really like, I haven't really done anything, you know what I mean? Like I like to think I do high quality work, but like, I haven't created like a trademark technique or like something. Like Non has done the carbon fiber wraps and the Z lightning bolts. Like those are the kind of things, once I accomplish something like that, then I'll probably feel a little bit better about.
You've got your own twist on things too, though. Don't be modest.
Yeah, well.
Come on, Alex. I've seen your work. I know you. You're modest.
I like to say I do what I can do when I can do it.
Are you blushing? No. Are you blushing?
Absolutely not. No, where is Jessica Alba in the room with you? No. But yeah, no. So fundamentally, when I'm wrapping a tiger wrap, like if we were to wrap this section right here that's blank, let me break my $1,000 piece of glass back there. So like this section right here is, can you see it?
No, can you move the camera a little bit?
Yeah, just turn. There you
There
go.
we go. There we
Perfect.
go.
I guess I'm not so relevant right here, but so like this black section of rod, if I wanted to add a tiger wrap to this, what I actually, you know what I can do? Hold on, give me 1 second. I have some.
Oh, Cubby, he is so humble, so modest. He's worse than me.
I just realized like I have all the stuff for when we do the class, and
Okay.
I should just use that.
Oh yeah, for all of you guys that are signed up for the 18-week course, Alex will be helping out some in there too. So you'll get a chance to, check out how he does it, learn from him as well.
So, okay, so we're gonna start with this black section right here. What we want to do is we're gonna wrap from the tip, the narrow end, up. And because there's a reason for that, and I'll kind of get into that later. But most importantly, so we would take, let's just say black, white, and gold, and we would wrap this section going this way with those 3 threads. What we're then going to do is there's going to be 4 directions you have to burnish. The direction that you wrapped, you're going to want to go on the 0. I don't think you can see this. There's a 0 axis, a 90-degree axis, a 180-degree axis, and a 270-degree axis. You're going to go on 0 and 180, the direction you wrapped. So you're going to burnish up the rod on the 0 and 180 axis. And what you're doing is you're creating movement in the threads. On the 720 and the 90, you're going to rotate and go the opposite way from butt to tip. And what that's creating is like an S, like an S shape in the threads. And what happens is you end up getting something like this. So as you see, there's a slight bend in all these threads, and it might be a little easier here. There you go. So you can see on the top that it's almost a little bit diagonal, and then it rotates like a wave. So that's going to be your first layer. Once you wrap this and you have a layer of epoxy over it, there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat. If you want to do CP, you can. If you want to go straight epoxy, you can. You cannot wrap thread over thread because there's going to be air gaps. You need to put some layer of epoxy over that first layer. Once that's done, you're then going to wrap from butt to tip. So now when you're putting on the second layer, you're going to go from the thick end to the skinny end over the top of it. And that, when you do it this way, it's going to help you press the threads up against each other rather than them like pulling down, because this is also built up going, essentially leveling it out, so to speak. So once you wrap that, then you're going to burnish again 180 and 0 the same way that you wrapped. So last time on the first layer, we went from, let's just say, left to right on 0 and 180. And now, since we wrapped right to left, we're going to go that way on the burnishing. And
so you're always going to go the opposite direction from where you started from the beginning.
Correct. So if you like, the first and second layer are essentially mirrored. So you're doing the same technique, but you're flipping the starting point. And so eventually you'll get the stripes or whatever effect you're looking on based on the thickness of the threads. And basically what's happening here is you're creating a viewing window. And Scott Throop, the guy who invented the tiger wrap, he got the idea from, let me see if I find the right one. He got the idea from these lenticular cards. So these baseball cards or basketball, if you look at them, they shift. Yeah. So the very first article about tiger wraps is in Rod Maker, Rod Crafter, whatever magazine it doesn't, I don't remember, it doesn't matter. But Scott Throop talks about how that gave him the idea for this. So what's happening is you're creating, the name is escaping me, but okay, I think it's called a Munker illusion, Munker. And basically what's happening is you're overlaying these two layers of thread, right? And there's a window that you're looking through. And depending on how you see it, it's presenting itself a little bit differently. And that's where you're getting the movement from, like, if you were to look at this side, like if I were to rotate it like this or like this, you might see, like, if you were in person, you would see a pretty predominant shift in color, in, you know, the shape a little bit almost. And that's kind of what I was talking about when we were referencing the movement. Ultimately throw another epoxy on there and clean it up. And I mean, that's like a drastic oversimplification. And there's and that's another reason why, like what we were talking about before with the YouTube videos, like there's so many things that I could talk about that are, like, you know, I glossed over because I know that, like, you know, not everybody's got a rod at their station and following along with me and that kind of thing. But essentially the cool thing about this is you can have as many colors as you want. You can add a different set of different colors. If you type in, you know, tiger wraps and the colors that you're trying to do into Google, you'll see probably Jim Trelakis and all these guys with examples from BD Outdoors or things to reference. And then the cool thing is then going to try and recreate that effect. So, like, there's been plenty of times where, like, you know, someone is asking me for, you know, I want a rod that's purple, green, and black. And so now I'm like, okay, well, what can I do? What are some ideas? I'll, you know, look up the internet, research and stuff like that. But then once I find, like, the effect that I'm looking for, there's going to be a different color pattern. So whether I use, you know, if I'm using light green and I want to use Fuji, or if I want to use Justice, or if I want to use Pro Wrap or Good Rod, like, those all have different widths. And it's like a micron. You need a micrometer to tell. Yeah. But they all have, like, and I'm not talking A and D, but even from A to A with NCP, or A and nylon, or nylon and nylon with different brands. Right. And they all are, it's so subtle, but you will tell the difference when you get it on the rod and wrap the tiger wrap. And so typically what Doc has taught me, and I'm sure a lot of people will, you know, kind of laugh, chuckle about this a little bit as well, is, you know, you want to start with something small and something big. And if you like one side of the spectrum, then you go from there. So now if I want to, you know, if I wrapped 3 Fujis, 2 NCPs and a metallic, well, then I might want to start with, you know, 2 Ds over the top instead of 3 threads. And then if I don't like that look, then I'm going to go with 2 As. And if that's worse, then I know that, okay, maybe I'm going to adjust the A and the D, or maybe 2 different Ds. I mean, and so very quickly you can get into, like I discussed earlier, like multiple attempts on one section of a rod.
I like it on the top one that you can change it so that if you don't like it, it's easy to take those off and do it again until you find the exact look you want.
Yep. And I will admit, like, there is a thread cost associated with that, you know, like I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, I've gone through half of a 4-ounce spool just trying to tweak, you know, I got 80%, you know, 75% good. And then, like, this one section in the middle that just really throwing everything off. It's like, again, what are you willing to settle with, or what is your criteria for success, you know? And that's, everyone is different, you know, and you see that when you, like, at PCS, they had the rod competition, you know, there was a lot of good rods. There was a lot of different styles. And, like, I guarantee you, most of those rods are going to be perfectly good catching fish. It's just a matter of, like, how each rod, you know, maybe you don't like strawberries, so that rod isn't that exciting for you,
right?
You know.
So hold on a second, because Fish and Matt Ryan's asking if either one of us can do kelp stringers. Yeah, we would. That would be, we could do it like by weaving or some other different techniques. However, that would be, I have to turn this over to Alex because I don't know when I'll be able to start weaving. I'm waiting for the doctor. So this I'm turning over to Alex. So contact Alex. He's my lifesaver.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody has any questions about like rod specific stuff for them, like feel free to reach out to me. Obviously, it's a little tough to discuss case by case out here with everybody,
right?
But happy to
don't
chat.
Have 5 hours.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, there's. It's funny, like I'm sure Tiffany, you can kind of relate. Like the idea of a custom rod is like pretty universally awesome to everybody, but a lot of times, like, all right, well, when are you gonna come over so I can measure your arm? Let me like check the blank against your body, like, some of the things, like, and this isn't a criticism to the person, Matt, who asked the question. I'm just laughing at like, there's a lot of times where like it's easy to be like, yo, let me get a blue spotty rod, and it's like, okay. And then, and I feel like the box from Dude, right? Where's my car? And it's, I've noticed that like some of my customers, like I got one guy, like I remember he wrote a review on Google. And he's like, yeah, he asks a lot of questions. He's very thorough. And I'm like, yeah, he probably didn't. I hope that's like in a good way, but like, ultimately, like, and that's the thing is like with rod building, like there is such thing as 90% isn't good enough. Right. You can build a sick rod for somebody, but like if the handle's not in the right spot and it feels uncomfortable for them, they're never going to fish it. End of story, period. And then at the end, and then they're going to look at that rod and be like, oh damn, I wasted a bunch of money on that custom rod. Let me just go buy one from Longfin, or let me go buy one from Island.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of loses out, and that's Ryan, not,
Fish Matt Ryan, that's a yes.
Oh, Ryan, sorry, Ryan, not
Fish
Matt.
Ryan, that's a yes. But I'm referring you over to Alex because I'm out of commission on wrapping for a little bit. And when it's like start wrapping, I've got Dave Hansen's, your saltwater guides to rods to do lickety split. So everything right now, any rod building that you want one of us to do, I'm gonna refer you over to Alex because sorry, it's gonna be till next year before I can get to you.
All right, hold on, everybody, real quick. I got it.
Okay.
Because of Fishing Booker, we get to do this show. So watch this video I made up in Alaska real quick, and then we're gonna.
You're gonna make me cry again.
What?
You're gonna make me cry again. All these Alaskan videos that I can't go fish yet.
You will. You'll be able to. You're still young. I want to thank fishingbooker.com for taking care of all of our members and all of our followers. Thank you very much, fishingbooker.com. Simply go to the QR code at the bottom of the screen, gang. You're going to save $50 off your next fishing adventure, no matter where you are. You just go to the QR code at the bottom of the screen, follow the simple directions, type in where you're at, how many people are going to go fishing, and fishingbooker.com will do the rest. They'll find you a boat for the area you're in. They'll arrange to make sure you have the best crew, whatever you're looking for, and you're going to save $50 off your next trip simply by using the QR code offered to you by fishingbooker.com at the bottom of the screen. So if you're anywhere from Cabo San Lucas to Alaska to New Zealand and anywhere in between, fishingbooker.com has you covered. Simply go to fishingbooker.com or use the QR code at the bottom of the screen to save $50 off your next fishing adventure. That's pretty cool of them to offer that.
Yeah. I'm jealous.
Yes, it is.
Definitely.
So I'll put the QR code over my face since I'm not relevant on this.
It's always the one on the bottom that gets QR code.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And who better than to be me? But Alex, this class that Tiffany's running, you better be ready because there's a bunch of my members on there and they want to be able to do it exactly. They're perfectionists and they want to be able to do it like you. So
I love it.
Be a lot of questions. They want to see, they're watching all this stuff that Tiffany's showing, and we had Doc Ski on the show. And so there's some real artists here, like Mike Lewis. The guy is probably the best human being on the planet with his airbrush. He can make anything. And he wants to get into this rod building. And you got Lisa. She's totally into it. Mike Lewis is into it. Ron V's into it. These guys are coming and these gals are coming and they want to learn. So It's going to be
Awesome.
cool that you and Tiffany are offering this for everybody. It's going to
Yeah.
be spectacular. And the price of this, Tiffany, go over the price of how they can get involved in this class, and I'll throw your little picture up on the screen while you're talking real quick, and then we're going to
Okay, hang on real quick before we do that, because I know Alex's time is limited today. He has a question. The question is, what are your thoughts about Rod Factory guide recommendations? Do you prefer to go with the factory recommendations, or is it good to purchase an extra guide so the line lays great? I can't talk today.
Yeah. So I think I see where he's going with this. And this is like a really cool thing that I like about Batson. So in my experience, I don't know if anyone else does this. I'm sure you can ask, but I know that when you buy a rod from Batson, you can download the guide spacing.
Right.
So there's two things. I have like my philosophy on how I approach the guides and the guide spacing. A lot of that's been, pressed upon me by Doc and learning life lessons through trial and error, that kind of thing. The other thing is that these like Batson, these guys, like they have the materials to like, they're testing these rods, they're breaking them. They know like, the where it really matters is, I guess, what I'm trying to get at. And so what ends up becoming the next step is it becomes more philosophical. Like you can do what they recommend. Absolutely. You will have no problems. Like you're not going to have any issues with the performance of the rod. However, it's funny because I'm actually like working on this big article about factory rods versus custom rods. And maybe we can talk about that later, Tiffany, but,
that's
one of the things is that like, so personally, I always wrap length +2, unless there's like an extenuating circumstance, like you're using the low rider guides that are very low to then you need more of them. You just have to, otherwise it's going to touch the blink. So I typically will use length +2, and if it's a 6, I round up. Or like if it's like a 7.6 or 8.6, whatever, I'll round up. That said, I always cross-reference the Batson guide spacing to make sure that I'm not putting a guide like in an obscure place to where, because they know where the rod's going to bend. I static test all my rods, but they've static test them to the breaking point. And so, I'm not in here pushing the rods that hard. I'm pushing them to a healthy extent. But I want to make sure that I'm not putting like, if Batson has a blank space, that I don't have a guide like right in the middle of it that's more or less fundamentally supporting something. So like the stripper guides, you can move those a lot more flexibly because a lot of that is where the rod is the action starts and stops. But when it comes to like the tips, like you want to make sure that you're in the ballpark of what they recommend, because they are the ones, they're not in business of putting you in a position to where your product's gonna fail. Because if that guide spacing isn't right and the line rubs on a big fish, like you're gonna be chewing on those guides. And who even knows about all the legal liability stuff behind that? So I trust it. I trust their guide spacing. I always trust but verify, just like anything else. But then you also have to incorporate your own philosophy into what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And so I usually will find myself somewhere in between. I like to, if they have 10 and I have 12, I'll try to fit in 11 to make sure that I'm covering it. But you also don't want to affect the action of the rod by putting too many guides on, like as an ACK rod or something like that. So again, and that's where like, sorry, Dave, but like this gets philosophical very quickly, so that's why it's tough to learn. In my experience, that's why it's been tough to learn from YouTube and from people without having someone to work with, because a lot of these things are, you can't really talk about. Like we've been talking for 45 minutes and I could go for another 3 hours.
We could go for weeks and weeks and weeks. I mean, that's one of the things I like about doing the class, is that people can actually ask questions or right there to answer it, versus all the frustrations I had going on YouTube, trying to figure this out. But before the YouTube started coming out, trying to ask people questions, they wouldn't answer. You're like, oh, go figure it out, but then YouTube came along, but it's very frustrating to try to find stuff when you can't ask them anything.
Yeah.
Or nowadays buying videos, you can't ask the person and you're always going to get stuck somewhere.
Yep. And that's the beauty about, like, you know, a lot of people have their own philosophy about how they do business. And for me personally, like, you know, dude, I was living in Hawaii. There's like maybe a 1.5 million people. So there's plenty of rods for everybody. But then you come to Southern California, there's 10 million people here. So there's no reason for guys to be super secretive unless you have created something yourself, like, you know, novel, then by all means you should protect that. But like, if you're doing tiger wraps and someone is asking you a question, like, I feel like it's a little wrong to just tell someone no, because you know, there's plenty of fishing rods to be built for everybody. You know, outdoors is so big now that it influenced the actual GDP of the US. So it's one of those things where, like, we can actually share this knowledge and we're not cannibalizing ourselves, so long as you're, you know, teaching people the right things and doing the right things.
That's one of the reasons why I love Dave Hansen's podcast so much, is because everybody's open. You can ask anything and they're going to answer it, and they're not going to like shut the door on you. So that's why I like joining up with him, is because it's the opportunity to teach people and show people stuff.
Yeah, and we'll definitely put you in the group, Alex. You're going to be on the website helping people. It's a little different than that other website you were talking about where they're just dripping negativity. We don't allow any negativity over here. You go on that,
no cussing allowed.
The other website you were talking about, you better have a thick coat of armor when you go on that website.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've been on Facebook. Like, I'm not ignorant to what goes on, and I've seen a guy who, like, he wrote an instructional book. A guy asked him a question, and then he told him that it's not an instructional book. And I just, like, I couldn't, like, I had to laugh, like, because it's like, dude, like, nobody, like, and I hope nobody takes this the wrong way, but, like, nobody is, I guess nobody's the wrong thing because it's generalization, but very few people become, like, generationally or tangibly wealthy from fishing or wildlife or outdoors industry. Like, I forget the guy who runs Bass Pro Shop, but, like, those days are kind of gone. And so it's very interesting to me to see people acting as if, you know, they have invented something or created something novel. And at the end of the day, like, dude, there's so much availability for everybody to fit in if we all just, like, act accordingly. You know, like, I've seen guys fight at fishing spots in Hawaii, and it's just like, dude, like, it's not that serious. You know? And so if you take that attitude with rod building, with fishing, with boating, you know, like, nobody likes to get the boat, you know, run over your Mad Max, but, like, you know, you could be somewhere. There's just, again, not to get into it, but there's just so many things that it just, everybody benefits from just giving each other a little grace and just being nice to each other. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. And Mike Lewis had a real quick question. Then you got to get out of here. You got to go. We're not going to
be late.
No worries. I appreciate it. Yeah. So this is an interesting question. I think that's like kind of a relative assessment, because I think I know who you're talking about. I think I've seen this guy on Instagram, the Stealth Sticks. What I mean by large factory rods is like your Shakespeare's, your like maybe
CalStar.
Yeah, like, and I don't want to. I hesitate to say Seeker and like CalStar, because, like, those are still quality rod. Like, that's a significantly higher quality rod than, like, a Shakespeare or an Ugly Stick or, like, whatever. But at the same time, like, and again, this is so much subtleties, but, like, it ultimately comes down to, like, is that person that's working with you, like, are they building the rod? Are they asking you the right questions? Or do they care about, like, the subtleties of the rod building? And I think that's more of, like, I don't want to say customer service type of aspect, but
yeah,
like, you could have a big company. Like, a lot of these fishing companies now are owned by private equity. So a lot of these companies we think are small are actually really large now. And so, to answer the question in a roundabout way, it just boils down to, like, a custom rod is more tailor fitted. Like, you can get a custom fitted suit at Men's Warehouse, but again, like it's probably going to be slightly different than if you were to go to a guy who makes custom suits exclusively. And I think that's where the differentiation, because then it's almost like a third tier, like in between custom and factory.
I agree with you. Also, to add to that, on my perspective of it, you were talking about how they're building the rods. Are they building like 100 rods being the same rear grip length, same foregrip length? Or are they asking the person that they're building what the length of their arm is? I need to measure it because, as you know, different body types, different arm lengths and stuff requires a rod to be built differently. And so if they're not building the rod to, different people's, expectations, and they're just building it, the standard, let's say hypothetically, rear grip's 12 inches, then you got the reel seat, then the foregrip's 10 inches. Well, I'm sorry, that's too long for me.
Yeah, I like to call those like semi-custom, because someone will come and say, hey, I want a blue rod. I don't care what it, and it's like, okay, I can make you a blue rod, or, and a lot of people will do that. And so I think there's, kind of that almost a third tier a little bit, but.
Yeah, custom is like everything's custom.
Yep.
In my book. It might be different from other people, but mine is, I want measurements. How long do you want the design? Guides, what type of guides do you want? When it really comes down to the nitty gritty of what every individual needs, that's custom, not throwing out 100 rods of the same thing. And so this type of rod's going to all be the same. That's not custom to me.
Exactly. Yeah. And even if you're making a bunch of rods, you could have the same series of rod and they could all be slightly different just because each product is individually different. So
right.
The rabbit hole goes as far as you want to dig it,
I'm not going to dig into a rabbit hole on this because we'll be here for 9 years.
We're gonna let Alex get going, Alex, but you're gonna be a part of this. So think about every Thursday for the rest of your life being on the podcast as much as you possibly can. And I'm gonna send you over an invite to be a part of the website so you can get on there and see what Tiffany's doing and what she's building with all the people on the website. And yeah, you're gonna be a good fit with our group. I think everybody is enjoying your knowledge here. It seems like we got a lot of comments and stuff, and Tiffany will get on it. But you go.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me, guys. Like
thanks,
I said,
Alex.
If you need anything, Saltwater Salmons on Instagram. Take care.
All right. Thank you very much, buddy. See you later. Tiffany, good job bringing him in here.
Oh, he's incredible. He's a good friend. I mean, I call him up. He was in Hawaii, and I'm like, okay, I've got this big show I got to do. I need some, rod builders to help me do seminars because I don't want to do seminars all day long. I won't have the voice to do it. And he's like, When is it? I'm like, 2 weeks. So he's like, okay, let me get a plane and I'll get out there. I'm going to plan on moving back to California anyway, so I'll stay with my parents. And so he flew out and did it for me. So, I mean, stuff like Good that job. Is how he is. And he's very thorough with his work. He's like me, very particular on certain things. If he doesn't like the way it looks, he's going to strip it down and redo it like I do. So he's a good guy and he'll be a good asset to us here.
Perfect. Well, we only got a few minutes left, so why don't we get through your classes?
Okay. This Sunday, August 10th at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is the 18-week masterclass course. I got Lisa in here and a bunch of other people from Your Saltwater Guide section here that has joined the class, and I'm looking forward to meeting everybody's face instead of just knowing their name but have no clue who they are. The class, this 18-week class, goes further into learning rod building, just showing you how to put a rod together and wrap guides on. This is way different. It's more of a college course setting without the college stress. Remember, I started rod building classes for the community colleges. That's when the COVID hit and I got the idea doing online classes. And so that's what it stems from, that whole ordeal. I wanted to make the classes better than just showing how to put a rod together. To me, that's just not, not the best thing to do. You really need to Know what you're building, know how to choose the components to put on a blank, what guides are good for braid, basic many questions like that I get from people. Things that are really important to know when you're building a rod, especially when you're rod building for someone else. So when we had this tackle shop a few years ago before we sold it, people would come in and ask me different questions. I wrote all those questions down so that I could come up, because this was a type of class that was in the making. I would write all that stuff down to really be able to show people how to build an appropriate rod, what they need to have, just all sorts of different things put together. Actions of rods, power and action deflection is very important, especially if you're building for somebody else. Just a lot of different things that are really needed to know. So this isn't the basic, what I call wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, one dayer. This is something that goes really in depth, and it's going to take you from the beginning aspects all the way to the advanced level. And then if you want, right after that, you can go into learning how to weave rods and learning, just extravagant stuff. You can't put 40 years of building rods, 50 years of building rods, 20 years in building rods into an 8-week class. There's just no way. So, but the 18 weeks that we put together is based on all the questions that we kept getting from people over and over and over again. Like Lisa knows, I tell everybody, do not buy anything until after the second day of class. We're going to go over all the stuff that you need and stuff that you don't need. A lot of these companies that are putting classes out and doing 1 day or 2 days, they're trying to make you buy their products. And that's because those are, who they work for. I don't work for anyone. So what I show you to get and what I say don't get is not because I'm paid to say that. It's to save you money and things that you probably aren't going to even use. So, and then I also show you, because based on everybody's income levels are different. Some people can't afford this, and they, so I'll show them how to, a way they can build with, making it as cheap as possible for it. We go really, really deep into it. Somebody asked me if I could share on here, that didn't see on the website what the agenda was for the 18-week class. So here you go. You're going to learn how to choose your own blanks and components, so you don't have to ask anybody what to get. You're going to learn the terminology throughout the course, what different things are called. That way, if you're building for yourself or you're going into business to build for somebody else, you'll know what to call things. You'll learn about power and action deflection. You're going to learn about the materials you're using. You get step-by-step live instructions on putting your components together, or if you choose to sit back and watch. But I find there's 3 types of students. There's the ones that are the go-getters, that are going to learn quicker and faster, and it's going to stay in their head. And those are the ones that are wrapping their rods as I'm walking them through it. Then you got the second kind that will look at it and then try it later on a couple of days. Sometimes 6 months later, they'll forget a step, and then they'll be like, okay, I'm on this step, I don't know what to do. So it takes them longer to learn because they're not asking questions as they're going through it. And then the third type, that's the guy that just sits back and watches and doesn't do anything, doesn't, practice. And this is something you got to practice. You can't just sit down, do it, and then expect 2 years down the road that you can go back and do it again. You got to practice it. And that's what this is all about, is practice, learning, and getting as close to perfection as possible. You're going to learn about the materials you're going to use. You're going to get a free rain shadow blank to start you out with this class. You'll learn 3 or 4 different designs, from like cross wraps, tiger wraps, fades. You're going to learn how to marble. You're going to learn how to fix guides. You're going to learn how to refurbish an old rod, learn various different decorative wraps, learn to read cross wrap patterns, and learn how to do acid wraps, also known as spiral wraps. You'll learn Turk heads and much, much more. So this is not, wham, damn, thank you, ma'am. This is a college style course where it started from. And it's one of these classes it's phenomenal. And it only costs $150 now. So if you go on to vaguerods.net for $150, you're going to learn all this stuff, 18-week class, plus get a free Batson blank. So sign up at vaguerods.net before Sunday.
Absolutely. And we're going to finish with this last question from Mike Lewis, and then we're going to go.
Last question is, what do you think of the DIY? I can't read that. DIY rod building kit with dryer, rollers, and everything you need to build the rod, including all the components. Yeah, we have the do-it-yourself rod building kits. Haven't been able to put everything on. I'm doing that over the weekend because the class starts Sunday. But it also really depends on what the person fishes for, because we can swap rods out. I really need to know, and that's one of the things we talk about in class, is what they like to fish for. Because if you have one standard DIY rod building kit for, let's say, freshwater bass, but they're more into halibut fishing, that's two totally different blanks. And that blank's not going to work for, if they fish for halibut and it's a trout blank, that's not going to work for them. So we're going through all that stuff and adding it. But I think having kits are good, but not for everybody.
No, you know that, Mike, just like painting, tell someone they can buy a kit and paint like Mike.
Mike would love painting on blanks. There's so much you can do with that. My brother does that.
Perfect. Well, gang, another phenomenal show with Tiffany, and I'm excited to see what all you guys do on Sunday, and we'll bring a few of you guys' stuff in on next Thursday, see how you guys like the class. We'll invite some of you to call in and tell us what you thought. It's going to be super interactive for the next 18 weeks as we move along with this class, Tiffany, and I'm glad that you got so many people.
Yeah, we're almost full. We are almost booked up.
That makes it so exciting that this is happening. And it's because of all of you on Your Saltwater Guide gang. You're making this happen. You're driving this thing along. And then Alex is going to find out the power of Your Saltwater Guide here real shortly. He's going to be pretty blown away because he mentioned a couple other websites. He's like, you ain't seen nothing yet, buddy. Watch what's about to happen. It's going to be cool.
Yep.
Right, Tiffany? All right, everybody. Kelly and I are on our way to this 5-star resort. We're going down to the pool right now. We're still here for another 2 days. So that's where we're going. I'm going to try to get some color on this fat white body, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Be cool.
All right. Have fun, guys.
Turn off the news. They're all fine. Tiffany,
thank you.